trying to figure out why the fuck this won't start. This is all just investigatory? Is that the word I'm looking for? Hopefully, this thing will start up. Because that's redundant. Dyna's up on the lift finally. If you don't remember, I was on a road trip to Texas and I got about halfway there in Little Rock, Arkansas, and this thing just died. Don't know what the issue was, just died on the highway. Pushed it off to an off-ramp, had to get it towed. So I don't know what the issue is, but I'm gonna start by draining fluids, engine oil, primary oil, and transmission, and see what's going on there. The transmission's doing some funky shit, so I think the transmission might be gone. But again, we'll see. And then this is what the bike is doing, which confuses me. The bike's in neutral, this is what it's doing. So it's turning over, it's getting fuel, it's getting spark, but I don't know if something happened with the ignition timing sensor to where the timing on the ignition is off, so it's not firing at the right time, but I don't know. So again, all the fluid's coming out. I'm gonna inspect them, see if there's any metal pieces in them. Primary is gonna be coming off. That should give us a good indication of where we're at. That should be a good starting point, and we'll see what happens from there. All the drain plugs look fine. All the fluid looks brand new. The transmission fluid was clear, and the AMSOIL that I used is a clear fluid. So I mean, everything looks great. So I don't think the transmission's gone. And the other thing I think may have happened, and again, I'm just shooting in the dark here, I have no idea. I'm just going off of the history of this bike and what I've seen with it. The compensator may have gone out. I've had it come very, very loose before. I don't even know how many miles it was, 600-700 miles I rode. May have been the nail in the coffin for it. If that's the case, not too big of a deal because I have a solid sprocket somewhere around here. That's the next course of action here is I'm gonna let all this drain and then get the peg taken off, the shift peg taken off, or the shifter arm taken off, I should say. The inspection cover taken off, and then the whole primary cover off. And hopefully that'll shed some light on what the hell's going on in here. Now, with that being said, while I'm in here, there are a couple things I'm gonna do just because it's convenient. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust the clutch. Like I said, this is a new clutch, so it may have a little bit of slop in it. Carb swap is gonna happen as well. Swapping over the CV for the S&S Super E on the chopper. And then just normal maintenance stuff. I'm gonna get the chain cleaned up, lubed up, and that should be about it. I went ahead and adjusted the torque on the compensator. It was a little loose, but I don't think that was the issue. Went ahead and adjusted the clutch, gave everything a good inspection, and everything looks fine in here. So the investigation continues. So I'm going to go ahead and get this primary buttoned up. Not quite sure where I left off on the Dyna. Still troubleshooting, doing some private investigator work. I did go ahead and swap carbs from this bike to the chopper, and then from the chopper to this bike. The chopper runs a million times better now. I think this carb was just too rich for that little 1200. The way the jets are set up, according to the S&S chart, I think it's going to be just about right for this 95 with the cams, especially when I get the head work done, hopefully this winter. Back to this. So I got the carb switched over, like I said. I'm going to put some gas in it, put a new petcock on. I think that old petcock may have been bad. Not 100% sure, but the diaphragm inside of it was kind of worn out. So that may have been part of the issue because it was a vacuum operated petcock, so maybe it wasn't getting, the diaphragm being damaged was keeping it from getting a good vacuum and opening up the fuel to the carb. I don't know. Putting all new fluids in it right now. I'm just getting ready to top the primary off. I already have the engine and trans filled. Put some gas in. Hopefully this thing will start up. It has fuel. Now it has fuel for sure. It has spark. I've tested that, and of course it has air. Those are the three components you need for a bike to run. So, by the way, these AMSOIL paper filters are fucking sweet, especially for the primary, because you can literally just open it part of the way and it gets right in there and you don't have to worry about spilling. And you don't need that fancy ass Harley one. And they're cheap. I don't have much gas in here, but I have enough to do two things. See if my new petcock leaks. Hopefully gets this thing started. Forgot to put a new crossover tube on, so that'll be a fun fix. Alright, so petcock's not leaking yet. Yep, we got fuel flow. It's trying. It is trying. And there goes my battery. So, battery's dead now. So I'm gonna let that charge and I guess try again. Sounds like it's trying to start, so that's at least something. Okay, it's been a little bit, maybe 30 minutes or so. I put the back plate of the air cleaner on. It doesn't fit this bike, but I wanted to have the choke. It won't work without this little locking bar. So hopefully this battery's got enough juice to make something happen here. I'm gonna just let this thing charge overnight. The battery just doesn't want to have enough ass to get this thing going repeatedly, or make attempts repeatedly. I'm gonna let this thing charge up overnight and come out tomorrow morning. Of course, camera on, and try to get this bitch started up. Okay, quick recap. Drain the fluids, change the petcock, bore scoped the tank, change the plugs, check timing, check the primary, changed carbs, to no avail. Everything has led to no joy. So, next step, after talking to someone who knows Dynas a little bit better than I do, that's being modest on his part, because apparently he's pretty much fixed about everything he can on a Dyna. He told me to run a compression test and see if I have low compression, which would cause a failure to start. So that's what I'm going to do real quick. I got a compression tester here. Basically, what I'm going to do is take both plugs out. This one's already out. I'm just going to show you what it is. So if you are unfamiliar with a compression tester, basically you have this hose that goes into the hole where your spark plug's at and has an O-ring, and it creates a seal so you can have a perfect, vacuum or perfect seal on your cylinders to test your compression PSI. For this bike, I've heard a couple different numbers. It should be closer to 200. The manual says 90, but there should also not be more than a 10% discrepancy between the two jugs. So if this one's at, say, 110, this one shouldn't be any more than 120 or any less than 100, if that makes sense. What you want to do, take both plugs out, throttle's all the way open, hook this bad boy up. You're supposed to do this warm, like you're supposed to run the bike and then run it and test it while the engine's warm. Obviously I can't do that because the bike doesn't fucking start. Okay, so we're gonna run the first one here. Power, turn it over. Alright, so that one came out right at 170. That's pretty good. Probably right about where it should be. So now we're gonna take this off. And again, that might be a little low. It's not too bad. Alright. And I do have compression release valves on these heads, as you may or may not know. And the compression release valves are closed because that's redundant. Okay, so 170 on the front. Let's see what we got on the rear. Alright, it's about 80. So, there's the problem. Somewhere there is a pressure leak or a vacuum leak, whatever you want to call it. And if I were to wager a guess, because if you have been following along, you would know that I have rebuilt this engine. And the only thing I did not rebuild or upgrade was the heads. That was a mistake on my part due to funds and time. That was the plan this winter, was to get the heads done. Now that plan has been bumped up a little bit because there's something going on in here, and I would have to guess it's either a valve seal's gone bad, a valve seat's gone bad. I've heard it might be piston rings, but again, these piston rings are brand new. The pistons are brand new. The pistons are brand new. The pistons are brand new. But I'm not gonna know until I tear it apart. So that's the next step, is getting the tank off, getting the heads off, having a good look at everything. So that'll be coming up here real soon, because I need to get this thing fixed so I can have this running when I tear the Ultra apart to paint it. I need to have at least one bike in running order. So here you go, compression test, 170 PSI, 80 PSI, huge difference. Not in a good way.